Hi students, hope you all are fine. Today let us discuss a poem, Geography Lesson by Zulfikar Ghose. Zulfikar Ghose, a famous poet and novelist who was born in India before independence. After independence, he migrated to Pakistan and now he is settled in the USA. His poem, The Geography Lesson, is a 24-lined single stanza poem that does not have any rhyme scheme. In his poem, Geography Lesson, the poet talks about three important things. First, how everything looks from the sky. Second, how civilization was established and the reason behind the unorganized settlement. And third, his question to himself why people hate each other. So let's read the poem now. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. Seeing it scaled 6 inches to the mile, there seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned, and without style when the jet sprang into the sky. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography, that land and water attracted man, was clearly delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. When the jet rose 6 miles high, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. But it was difficult to understand that the men on the earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities, and to kill. From that height, it was not clear why. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had, seeing it scaled 6 inches to the mile. There seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned, and without style. When the jet sprang into the sky, the poem is written from the perspective of a person who is observing the city from different heights. Here in this poem, the poet is discussing about the three important things when he was traveling into the sky in an airplane. When he reached a mile away from the ground, he just looked down and he could find the city had developed in such a way, but the distance seemed only 6 inches to him. And he could see the city was not in an order, it was unplanned and it was without any style. Here in this second part, the poet says that when the plane reached 10,000 feet in the sky, the poet came to know why the cities of the country located near the rivers and also the valleys are so populated. Next, the poet provides the logic of geography, which is clearly delineated. That is the reason that made the people settle in an unorganized way. According to him, land and water, which are the lifeline and the reason for our survival, which attracted the early humans. The land here refers to the green land on which we cultivate food and make the shelter. The poem is written in the perspective of a person who is observing the city from a mile away from the ground, then 10,000 feet away from the ground, lastly 6 miles away from the ground. In the third part, the poet says that when the airplane was at the height of around 6 miles, it became clear that the earth is round in shape and that it has more sea than land. According to him, he could not understand why the people hate each other on ground. The poet sees a single earth and wonders why people are divided. He could not understand why the people are hating each other and why they are building walls around the city and also why they are killing one another. That was not clear for him. So when the jet sprang into the sky, when the jet rose 6 miles away from the ground, the poet could see the earth was round in shape and also most part of the earth is covered by water and a little part by land. But it was very difficult for him to understand why the men on the earth found reasons to hate each other and also to build walls across the cities and also to kill one another. From that height, it was not at all clear for him. So let's discuss the poem once again. The poet was traveling by a jet, and when he reached a mile away from the ground, he could see the ground and he could understand the city was developed. But it was not in an order and it was unplanned and also it was without style. From there, he moved further and he reached 10,000 feet away from the ground. Then he looked through the window of the airplane and he could understand why the country had cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated, and also he could understand the logic of geography, that was the water and the land attracted men. All those things are very clearly described when he reached 10,000 feet away from the ground. When the jet moved a little bit further and when it reached 6 miles high, he could understand the earth was round in shape and it had more sea than land. But it was not at all clear for him why the men on the earth hate each other, why they built walls across the cities, and why they killed one another. From that height, it was not clear for him. He could see a single earth from different heights, but he could not understand the mindset of common people. The poet could understand the logic behind the facts in geography, but he could not see any logic behind the division of land by raising walls of bricks and hatred, and why people went madly after one another's throat. Through this beautiful poem, the poet wishes to convey the irrational and illogical grudges and grievances that people nurture for each other. The poet fails to understand why people discriminate and judge on the basis of regional and territorial lives when geography and nature does not establish these differences. The poem has been titled Geography Lesson and it has been titled quite suitably. The poet learns a lesson from the geography. He was able to understand that the city that looked unplanned when viewed from the ground had been developed in accordance with the needs of the man. It was therefore not unplanned but beyond the understanding of the common man. Therefore, rather than continuously criticizing their city, man should be thankful for the comforts that he has. Man should, on the other hand, try to derive answers to the mystery behind man's hatred and animosity towards another man. So, students, here are some important points to remember. When the poet looked from a mile away from the ground, he could see the distance scaled 6 inches to a mile. The city was developed, but it was not in an order. There was no pattern or style. When it reached 10,000 feet, the valleys were populated, land and water attracted man, and the poet could understand the logic of geography too. When the jet reached 6 miles away from the ground, the poet could understand the earth was round in shape and it had more sea than land. When the jet reached 6 miles high, the poet could understand the earth was round in shape and it had more sea than land. But the poet couldn't understand why the men in earth hate each other and also built walls around the cities and kill one another. So, students, I hope you understood today's lesson. Let's meet with yet another new video. Thank you. Have a nice day.